Good morning and welcome to Urban Update. I am Alberto Vasallo. Now on the show today, Stepping Out, the Dimick Center's big annual event, is getting an early start and we'll fill you in on what's coming in the fall. Also on the program, the man who pumps you up with high energy tunes during Red Sox games at Fenway and Patriots games at Gillette Stadium. We'll introduce you to the man behind the music. And Mrs. Massachusetts USA Universal 2017 will grace the show this morning and we'll chat with her in just a bit. But up first, American Student Assistance and its mission to eliminate finance as a barrier to education. Now, they do it by demystifying the financial aid process, by advocating on behalf of students, and by providing in-person support for Massachusetts high school students, parents, and adults. Now, their Center for Consumer Advocacy launched last year and was founded to broaden the public understanding of college financing and repayment. Lately, the Center has been busy advocating for legislation that could really protect students against for-profit higher education institutions. Here to give us an update and an overview is Kevin Fudge. He happens to be the director of the Center for Consumer Advocacy. Welcome to Urban Update.
Thanks for having me.
Good. So much to talk about. So I may have you disclaim or have you come back on a series of Urban Update shows because you have so much to offer.
Sure.
So this is installment number one. Fair?
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the student crisis. Everybody's talking about the student crisis constantly. But is it just the cost of college these days, or are there other factors to consider?
So I think the biggest thing with the student debt crisis is the numbers get focused on are the $1.4 trillion and the 40 million people who have student loan debt. What's important to note, though, is that not so much the amount, but just the people that are struggling to repay. Anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, and they might go into delinquency or default more likely than somebody with a debt that is a lot higher. So the most important thing I would say is identifying people who have gone to school but left without a degree and have debt. And we really want to try to avoid that by developing financial capabilities for students before they actually take on the debt, while they're in school, helping them manage their college payments, and then when they finish school, figuring out the best repayment plan for them. So it's a challenge. I mean, debt is a reality, the way that people pay for school, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a crisis if we help people educate how to repay successfully.
Yes. So what kind of resources do you guys offer? I mean, some substantial stuff.
Certainly. So we have a college planning center. We have two, one in Boston, one in Brockton, Massachusetts, and so people can go there to get assistance with anything related to writing the college application, identifying financial aid award letters, figuring out how to pay, searching for scholarships, if there's a gap between what the school offered you in financial aid versus what the total bill is, being able to understand and interpret that. So a myriad of sources. And then on the repayment side, we have a campaign at asa.org/PSLF, which is about public service loan forgiveness, 10 years, zero debt, which is explaining to people how they may be able to take advantage of a federal program that allows people to make 120 qualifying payments and then have the remaining debt they have forgiven.
Tell me a little bit about this. I heard a lot about this Boston Bridge program. Charlie Baker talked about it, Mayor Walsh. What's your stance on that?
Anything that promotes the idea of creating value for higher education, we're behind, and I think is a great idea. It's important to note that the amount of people that it would cover maybe is a little bit disproportionate to the amount of people, almost 200,000, that are going to public schools in Massachusetts right now. But the idea is that if you're going to a two-year institution in the city of Boston, Bunker Hill, Roxbury Community College, Mass Bay Community College, that after you receive any sort of federal money, you're eligible for the Pell Grant, which is for low-income students, that you can have, it's kind of like a last dollar filler grant, so that any sort of tuition or fees that was not covered by your financial aid, by your federal Pell Grant, would be covered by this program. And so it's talking about value. It's encouraging people who may not have necessarily considered a two-year school to consider it before then transferring to get a bachelor's degree, because ultimately it matters not so much where you go, but what you do when you get there, and then having the credential post-graduation, which can be very difficult in the city of Boston because we have such a high number of private schools. I think at last check maybe there was 55 colleges in Boston and 50 of them are private. So it's really encouraging people that there's value, and that challenging the whole behavioral economics theory that just because it costs more doesn't necessarily mean it's better.
Right, and we were just going to get to that earlier, right? Which is, the marketing departments of these schools do a great job, right? But at the end of the day, in today's society, it's just about getting the credentials and getting that education, no matter where it really comes from, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's a tough sell here in New England because we have so many brand name schools that do a great job of what they have to offer. But think about it: 70% of students nationwide go to public schools, and when you go out west, somebody gets into Ohio State or Kansas or University of Michigan, it's an honor. But for years, people have looked at state schools like, well, we have all these private schools, and our students should achieve higher. And the goal is, it's not so much having, being able to achieve to the highest level. It's how do we, maximize the return on the investment, because that's what it is in a college education. Get value for your degree, and if you decide to go on to graduate school, now you have resources, or now you can take on debt because you're not saddled with so much undergraduate debt that it makes it cost prohibitive to consider that option.
Now, I know you were up at the State House testifying, right?
Yes, I was.
And that was in favor of some of these kids who have gone to for-profit schools, kind of the ad you see on TV, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's a state tuition recovery fund, and basically it's designed to help students who go to a for-profit school that has been either closed or committed fraud and have otherwise been harmed and may not have access to federal relief, either through a loan discharge or from another mechanism. In fact, the students who are eligible for loan discharge through closed schools, AIC was one recently, Corinthian colleges, they have not yet received that relief. And so the states are really, if you look at California already has a fund, almost I think 22 other states already have a similar fund to provide relief to consumers because the action hasn't come from the federal government.
And I told you that you're going to have to come on because we've run out of time and there's so much other stuff we can talk about. So I'm going to invite you over into someone's office and maybe we'll talk about tackle these one at a time.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Kevin, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, don't move because in just a few minutes, Stepping Out. Have you ever been to Stepping Out?
I have not.
Okay, at the Dimmick Center is Stepping Up. They've got some big news and some big names of music this fall. All the details right here on Urban Update.